Well, I thought it would be fun to teach you how to do mist on a painting today. And so this is one that I call Misty Waterfall. And so let's just go see how I do it. Well, what fun to be bringing you my first new video on my updated channel. Oh, this painting took me a little while too, I'll tell you, but it sure was fun. I really enjoyed it. And I thought it would be great to do this painting in a kind of a vignette feel so that the edges are just kind of fading away. And then also to teach you about doing mist. It's actually a two-part process, but it really works out great if you have the time to spend with it and just like to fool around a little bit. So anyway, so what I've done first of all is with my oil medium, I just went over my whole canvas. I just got it moist. I just wanted the oil base on there. And it's covered fairly well, but I also wiped it off just a little bit just in case I got too much on there. So I'm starting out with evergreen trees and my fan brush, and I'm just going to have two evergreen trees here. I think you've probably all seen me do a lot of evergreen trees before, so I'm not going to go into detail, but I will give you this little close-up of one of the trees. I love doing the evergreen trees, especially with a fan brush. Well, I love a filbert brush too, but a fan brush works really good. But you notice the fan brush always, for me being a left-hander, the right side of my tree comes out very nice. The left side comes out kind of blobby. Now, if you're a right-hander, it's going to be just the opposite. Your left side of the tree will look pretty well, but the right side of the tree will be a little bit blobby. I guess it all depends on how you're holding your brush. But for me, this is the way it is as a left-hander. So I'm just blotting around in here. I just want to take that, I'm using a chip brush now, and I just want to blot around the edges. I want to make this kind of a dirty, misty feel. Just tapping, and I'm just picking up a little bit of the tree color and bringing it out. I'm not adding any new color to my paintings at all. And just keep tapping until you find the amount of blend in there that you like. Now, you'll probably all recognize this video from a famous TV artist from PBS, but this is my rendition of it. I've changed it quite a bit. I love to do that. I love changing paintings around. I see something and I think, oh, I would really like to try that in a different way. And that's something you guys can do. It's a lot of fun, and it's a real learning experience for just kind of creating your own way. So now I want to do some distant, like hillsides, maybe the mountains, hillsides, I guess you'd call it hillside. With my filbert brush, I've just taken dark brown and a little black, and I'm just making a slight outline here. This will be my first hillside. I'm not going all the way to the top of the canvas, but I'm getting fairly close. And now just using my finger, I just want to blend this out. Just blend it, make it a little misty looking. So I'm already starting that mist feel without actually putting any mist in. And this I'm blending a little bit closer to the top, and just, I'm kind of bringing the paint out as I work. Just kind of spreading it around. And just make it fairly thin so it gives that really distant, kind of that foggy look. That looks good. Now I want to change that color just ever so slightly. I've just added burnt sienna to give it a little bit more of a reddish color. And this is totally safe paint to use your fingers, so don't worry about that. I'm using water mixable oil. I'm pretty sure that other brands are safe too. You'd have to check the labels, but I think pretty much all just paint is just pigment and oil, basically. And so I think really if you're just using your finger on those, you are pretty safe. But if you don't feel safe, just go ahead and use a glove. Now again, just I'm mixing around, just spreading this out a little bit. Now I don't want this all the way to the top up here, so I'm just kind of wiping this off some. I got it just a little bit too high. So now with my finger, there again, just bringing some of that paint out into the white part. Just spreading it around, making it very thin. See how nice that first one looks after you put the second one in front of it? Just keep blending away until you're satisfied with the way yours looks. I suppose instead of your finger you could use the chip brush if you wanted to, because that tapping would probably do the same thing, just like it did on either sides of the trees. So now I want to add just a little bit deeper color rock here. So I've got a little bit more black in the brown. Mix just brown and black together. And blending that out some. And adding a little brown, the burnt sienna to it. I love that reddish brown color. That just, to me, that is one of the prettiest colors. Well, they're all pretty colors, but I kind of like this one. That burnt sienna. Now with my fan brush, I'm dipping into a little bit of oil. And this is the first part of my waterfall. So that didn't come out quite light enough, so I'm going to go over it in a couple of places here just to bring it out some more. And here. And just with my fan brush, I just want to make a few little splashes down here at the bottom. And let's start another rock right here in front of the falls. Boy, our road is noisy tonight. I can hear all kinds of cars roaring by. Okay, with your finger, just start blending this out. Blend to your little heart's content. I got to tell you a little story. When this was like a lot of years ago, I don't even remember when. It was, I think, in the 80s. My husband and I used to be a men's hairstylist. I was a men's hairstylist for 30 years. And we would have these seminars over in Hawaii, so we'd get these trips. I always would bring him along because oh gosh, we would have so much fun. I did my business stuff too, but he and I would take off a lot and just go adventuring on our own. Well, we got on some bus tours in Hawaii. This was the Big Island. And the bus tours took us to a lot of different waterfalls in Hawaii. I wish I could see some of the Oriental falls. I'd love to see some of the Orient. But this was Hawaii, and oh my gosh, they are absolutely gorgeous. I love Hawaii. I love traveling to Hawaii. It's one of my favorite places. But I had such a good time, and of course my trips were always right off because it was a business trip, which made it really even extra fun. So anyway, I'm using my chip brush, tapping, tapping, tapping. And I'm just defining this edge here a little bit more. I think this is really looking very interesting. When I saw this painting, I thought, oh, this is so nice. I just want to change the placement a little bit, do a few things different, and just kind of make it my own. So on this little rock, this little hillside here, I want to add 2 more evergreen trees. Same old thing as I always do, starting at the very top and just lightly pressing downward with my fan brush, only with using one corner to start. And as I come down, my brush presses a little bit harder and a little bit harder until it flattens out and uses most of the brush. Now these trees are a slight bit darker because they are a little bit closer. And you can just straighten up whichever side looks a little weird to you. Just straighten up your left side or your right side. Just make it more looking like a tree. And just tap out this bottom a little bit. And make that kind of a misty feel over here on the left side. Okay, back to my filbert brush now. Let's do a little more kind of some rocky stuff down here in the foreground. Well, this isn't really quite the foreground, but it's closer to us. And blending out with your finger. And tapping out at the bottom. And you guys can change your rock formation any way you want. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. So now with a bit darker color, I'm coming more forward, so it's going to get darker. And some more blending. Now a little white, crimson, and a touch of blue. I just want to put this kind of a lavender purplish color down here below, because I think this would be also a little bit of a misty feel here. So I'm just changing the color slightly. And I'm not tapping real hard. I'm going to blend it, but I just want a few taps in here. And just blend this out however much or as little as you would like. Keep away from the edges going out too far though, because you want to keep that that airy feeling, like it's just disappearing in the side. And I want to change this hillside here. I want this to cover up more of the tree. So I'm just blending this out. Just changing the shape some and tapping it out again. Now down here in the foreground, using my dark colors, my dark brown, a little black, a little sienna, just make the shape of kind of some rocky stuff here close to us. Now a little burnt sienna, I'm changing the flavor of the color on this side, making this a little more reddish brown. And on this side, I'm adding some blue, which actually kind of almost makes it a darker color. And just fill this in here with sienna. Come way out to the sides in the foreground here. You don't want those left you want those to come all the way out to the edge. And adding a little white with my filbert brush. A little white, a little sienna. Let's just go ahead and just do a tiny bit of highlighting, not very much. This is a foggy day, a misty day, so you wouldn't see like a bright sunshine here. And still with my dark color, let's put in a tree. Now this will be kind of an old snag. That's what we call them in Oregon, as a snag. That's what my husband called them anyway when we used to go hunting up in the Blue Mountains. They're just old dead trees that just have some branches on them. Very, very little greenery at all. But this tree here, I'm tapping to kind of make it so it's not a real smooth tree. It wouldn't be like a birch tree that has smooth edges. Fir trees or evergreen trees, they have kind of rough edges. And let's do another one right next to it. And I think I'm just going to attach these because I think that would look good. And again, just tap, 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 coming all the way down the tree. We are getting such beautiful fall colors now. Just all of a sudden, boy, everything is starting to turn. It is gorgeous. Oh, the reds and the yellows and the browns, everything is really, really pretty. And I'm just working on this foreground a little bit more here. And blending out with my finger. That poor finger is going to be so raw when I'm done with this painting. No, actually my canvas is really smooth, so I don't have a problem with the roughness. If this was a really rough canvas, oh boy, I might have some really sore finger. So with my filbert brush, I'm just highlighting the right side of the tree now, just a slight bit. I'm just using ochre, yellow ochre. Let's get the other tree also, just a little bit of highlighting. Good. Now with my liner brush, I'm dipping into my oil medium. And I just want to start making some little tree branches. These are not real big. It's not a huge tree, so they wouldn't be very large. But make sure that you really, really thin this paint out so that it will flow easily off your brush. Especially this little liner brush, because it's so thin, it's really hard sometimes to get enough paint in it to actually make these nice little branches. Ooh, I like this one. Ooh, this is nice. And a few little touches here and there. Yeah, this is great. And you just put in however many branches you want. That maul stick really has kind of helped. My sister gave it to me, and it's been quite a bit of help. I wish it was kind of flat though. The round one I find wobbles around a lot. If it were flat, I don't know, maybe that wouldn't work so well, but it'd be fun to try a flat one. Anyway, with my fan brush, all I'm doing is lifting upward and putting a few little needles on some of these branches. It's not real heavy, it's very light. And let's go into some yellow, some green. And let's just highlight a little bit on these distant trees here. Not tapping everywhere. I'm mostly tapping just on the right side of the tree. A little bit through the center and then off to the right. And let's do the same thing on the left side here. Again, these foreground trees on the left are a little bit darker. I'm keeping them a bit darker. And a little more of that highlight. And a bunch of different colors, and I'm adding some darks to it now too. And let's just go ahead and make like a little bit of shrubbery, some ground cover. It would be like weeds or just something so that it's not just a plain old rock down there. More dark color. And I'm using actually just the tip of my brush, tip of my fan brush. And I'm angling my brush left and right to give the angles a little bit different shape. I really like this so far. It's turning out so good. And just put as much shrub in here as you want, just so it looks good. You could even do another tree, small tree here in the foreground if you wanted. And I have to have my birds, right? Very thinned out brown. I'm just making a few birds in here. Every painting has to have just a teeny bit of life in it. And let's also add some tree trunks. Very lightly. I just don't want these to hardly show up at all. And with some yellow and a touch of red here and there, I'm going to mix these two colors and just put in some flowers. So now let this painting dry for 2 weeks. Well, 1 to 2 weeks, depending on your paint and how thick it is. I let mine dry close to almost 2 weeks before I started this process here. Now, this is the part where we're going to put in the mist. So I've tapped into my white and I want to be sure and wipe it off, wipe my brush off on a paper towel. I'm using a filbert and I'm just kind of testing the canvas first by touching lightly, and then I touch at the base and then spread lightly upward and outward. Make sure you wipe the brush off in between in case you have too much paint, because it's really hard to get off too much. But just go ahead and tap and do little swirls, just like mist would be. I'm kind of covering up this right-hand tree, this small one. Oh, and I did, before I turned the camera on, I did add those other 3 right-hand trees, right and left-hand trees, just because I thought it would look nice with more trees rather than just the 4 trees. So now I've got, what, 3, 4, 5, actually 6, 7. Huh. Okay. Anyway, I thought it looked better than just 4 trees. Kind of get in between this tree here, the evergreens. And now over to the rocks, the hillside. I'm putting a little mist on the furthest hill back. Keep watching to see that you don't get too much of the white paint. And I added just a touch of blue to the white, so it wasn't a pure white. You could also add black, which would give it maybe a gray color, a very light gray. And let's go to this hillside here, the middle one. And just begin swirling and blending around on this. This is really looking misty looking. The neat thing about this is that you don't have to do the mist. This is a lovely painting without the mist. And so if you didn't want to add the mist, you don't have to. This one I just added the mist because it's called Misty Falls. I couldn't think of a better name. Oh. So I'm just keeping on adding mist wherever I think it should be. Remember, this painting is totally dry, and when I get a little bit too much, I just take my paper towel and just kind of wipe it off and blend it in a little bit. And if you got way too much white, you could always just let it dry and then go over it with a little bit of dark again, just like you did your original hillside. So it's always repairable. No matter what you do, you can always fix your painting. Now I want to add a little purple, or excuse me, some crimson, just a very little bit. Touch of blue, crimson. And this one's further away, so I'm just lightening that one a little bit more. Now to these trees on the left-hand side. And I'm covering up the very left-hand side one, pretty much. And just working my way up the rest. You cannot try this on a wet painting. You'll be ever so sorry. Make sure your painting is really dried for at least a week or two. And now I want to just very lightly touch on the very edges down here at the bottom with the light color. And now with my filbert brush, I think I need to highlight these little flowers just a bit more. I really want them to show up more than what they do. So dipping into my yellow, I'm just going to hit a few places. And I probably will add even more stuff to this after this is dried again. Maybe some sticks and twigs and things like that. Now a little red. I want some red flowers in here too. I want them to show up more. So I really like this painting. I love it the way it turned out in a frame. Okay, here is the finished painting, the original without any mist. You have a choice. You can do it like this, or you can actually put the mist in and have a totally different painting. So it's up to you. This was really a lot of fun. I hope you try it. Well, I'll see you with a brand new video next month. Okay, bye.